Trump administration officials are ramping up their criticism of judges who rule against the president. Take a look at this exchange yesterday on Fox Business.
These are rogue judges that are basically
One was
operating
appointed
at this
by
thing.
Donald Trump. That's a rogue judge.
There was one appointed by Donald Trump, who was a career bureaucrat over at USTR. But more importantly, the person who wrote the decision, Rastani, was appointed by Reagan, free trader. She's the one who took the lead trying to stop the Section 232 tariffs and got overruled in the appeals court.
I mean, rogue judges, a judge appointed by Ronald Wilson Reagan, and a judge appointed by Donald J. Trump.
I don't know.
And time again, we hear the people inside the administration acting shocked. Oh, this is a judicial coup. This is a rogue this. No, it's the Constitution of the United States.
They're following the law.
We are a constitutional republic, and if you don't like what they did, then you appeal it to the United States Supreme Court.
So that came moments before President Trump's tariffs were reinstated. It's one example of how the Trump administration appears to be trying to undermine confidence in the judiciary. After that three-judge panel ruled against the president's sweeping tariffs Wednesday evening, Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, posted on social media calling the decision a judicial coup.
It's just so inflammatory and so wrong.
And then yesterday he wrote, quote, "We are living under a judicial tyranny."
That is also, again, there is a reason why threats against federal judges have skyrocketed.
And speaking of threats,
that sort of language it does exactly that.
Miller, along with his post, put up photos of the three trade court judges. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also addressed the ruling yesterday.
Three judges of the U.S. Court of International Trade disagreed and brazenly abused their judicial power to usurp the authority of President Trump to stop him from carrying out the mandate that the American people gave him. These judges failed to acknowledge that the President of the United States has core foreign affairs powers and authority given to him by Congress to protect the United States economy and national security. The courts should have no role here. There is a troubling and dangerous trend of unelected judges inserting themselves into the presidential decision-making process. America cannot function if President Trump, or any other president for that matter, has their sensitive diplomatic or trade negotiations railroaded by activist judges.
And the Trump administration is far from the first to have frustrations with the courts, federal courts. We know that whether it's Bush or Obama or Biden, it's a bipartisan endeavor. However, this administration, the Trump administration, is the first time to sort of vilify the judiciary in this way, to put out names, photographs, accuse them of being part of the deep state, as we talked about yesterday when this news was breaking, suggesting that it was a judicial coup, that this was something, an effort to thwart not just the will of the presidency, but the people, and talking about it in sort of incendiary terms that I know worries quite a few folks.
I think the theme of the last two stories that we've been talking about are welcome to democracy. Welcome to our system. It's not a judicial coup. Our system, for as long as these short-memoried people may or may not remember, has been a three-branch system of government in which other branches have a say. And when you go back to the Elon Musk story, it's the same story. He didn't just leave. He's not just slipping out of Washington. He was chased out of Washington by democracy, by people saying no, by people protesting so much around his cars and dealerships that he lost billions and billions of dollars, by people raising their voices, by people filing lawsuits. And by the way, Donald Trump was saying, I think he wrote, "He will always be with us." That's something the Rev might say in a eulogy for someone. So he will always be with us. I mean, and I just want to say, we can tell the Elon story and this kind of disciplining by democracy as a story of someone leaving. But there is pain in the wake of these tariffs, and there's pain in the wake of what Elon did. He talked about bringing the wood chipper to USAID. Brooke Nichols, Boston University professor, mathematician, figured out what is the effect of this. They have a tracker. 300,000 deaths. According to a Boston University professor, because of the aid cuts so far, 200,000 of them children. Okay, Vietnam War, y'all remember that? 60,000 U.S. service members died. This is 5 times more deaths, according to the Boston University study, because of aid cuts since January of this year. So Elon Musk is leaving, but he's also leaving a legacy. But I think it's really important that people remember the courts work. Joe and I have been having a 10-year conversation about our institutions standing up or not. The courts work still, not perfectly. There's problems, but courts work, lawsuits work, and pressure works, and people raising their voice works. And it's not just that Washington always wins. I think the people always win.
Yeah, well, it is. You look and see, and again, you talk about USAID. I'm hoping that Republicans who supported George W. Bush with PEPFAR, who supported evangelical institutions and Catholic institutions and other institutions to help the poorest among not only us but across the world, will put the funding back in for these desperately needed services. I also again, Elon Musk obviously going back to take care of Tesla because he did face, of course, such backlash. Some of it way overboard. The violence and vandalism at Tesla dealerships, just absolutely shameful. That only hurts the cause. David Drucker, though, I want to talk though about the administration attacking judges. They have to know this. First of all you do is you actually get other federal judges angry that the administration doesn't respect the separation of powers and Article 3 powers. But also closer to home for this White House, it's very dangerous, but closer to home politically. Whenever they start talking this way, you have Republican senators, MAGA senators like Josh Hawley, like John Kennedy from Louisiana. You've got Chuck Grassley. You've got other Republican senators going, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, hold your horses. You got to win. If you don't like a judge's ruling, that's too bad. You can appeal it, and then you have to respect the outcome of it. Talk about how these attacks on federal judges, the talk of judicial coups, that doesn't even play with most Republicans on Capitol Hill.
Well, they're going to be here a lot longer than any president, and so I think they tend to take the judiciary a little bit more seriously. But look, we have a very activist president, and since the Supreme Branch, the legislative branch, is choosing to do nothing, it's understandable that you're going to have the only other branch of government, the judiciary, push back. I mean, that's why the administration finds itself in this boat. If they were working with Congress to legislate on a lot of the different things they want to do, whether you like them or not, the dismantling of USAID, for instance, if they had gone to Congress, taken the statutory program and changed the law, there'd be no lawsuits. But instead, they come in with a sledgehammer. They challenge and obfuscate the law. Congress does nothing. And so the courts are the only recourse and the only ones willing to do anything about this. We have seen this, as Jonathan mentioned, from presidents on the right and presidents on the left. They all think they're emperors. They don't like judges thwarting their agenda. But in this case, this president is going to be thwarted time and again because he's stretching the bounds of executive power. And on Capitol Hill, they do cringe. Republicans don't like it because they rely on the courts when they're in the minority. And Republicans were recently in the minority, and they know they'll be in the minority again, and vice versa with the Democrats. But this is standard Washington speak. And what this president knows how to do is not finesse, but bully. It's the way he operates. What will be fun, Joe, is eventually when this term ends and there'll be a Democratic president, whether in the next term or the term after that, and a lot of Trump administration officials that are still active in politics will be going to court and using these same courts to block Democratic presidents from doing things they don't like.